Hello and welcome back to the Review of Death, your fortnightly home for Doctor Who news and reviews, featuring myself, Matthew Toffolo, and Billy Garrett John.
Hello everybody, how are you all doing today?
I'm doing well, are you doing well?
I'm doing very well, thanks Matt. I think today we might be able to exercise some demons.
You might be able to exercise
I might be able to exercise some demons. I mean, I don't know how you can't think that Hellbent is a good episode of Doctor Who, but we'll get round to it later on.
We'll get there, we'll get there.
It's difficult doing news.
Yeah.
Because we're filming this quite far in advance.
Yeah, so for you guys, this is travelling back in time. We're travelling forward. Well, we're travelling forward.
We're travelling forward to you.
Because this is actually St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. It is St. Paddy's Day.
It is St. Patrick's Day. None of us wore anything green.
No, but nothing says St. Patrick's Day like the Doctor Who Twitter account announcing that Fortnite is coming.
Yeah, Fortnite.
Doctor Who is coming to Fortnite. Yeah. It's exciting, isn't it?
Pretty
for people
cool.
Who play Fortnite.
I watched the trailer and I was like, if I was a person who played Fortnite and liked Doctor Who.
What is Fortnite?
Well, it's a battle royale game. So I was a bit confused when it was like, go around this museum.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. I should know. I work in gaming.
That's true.
No one plays Fortnite at the Oxcast. Actually, that's not entirely true.
Right.
But the person who plays Fortnite in the Oxcast did not tweet about it.
No.
And I thought,
Well, I mean, it is Doctor Who, after all.
But he might play it. He might do it.
That would be fun. I'd like to see somebody who plays Fortnite see their opinion of Doctor Who being in it. Because it's not like the biggest IP. Thanos was like the first
Yeah,
big...
I mean, they've got so much stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, Star Wars had a big thing in it, and they even had, like, audio that led into episode 9 of the films. Yeah.
Wow.
This is why I think people have been saying, like, maybe they'll announce the 14th Doctor.
On Fortnite.
And there's, like, apparently there's, I saw it. So there's, like, a whole museum area where they've got all different bits and bobs, like sonic screwdrivers and TARDISes. And
Oh, I saw that, and they had, like, a Remembrance Dalek in there.
yeah,
They
they've
had
got all
liveries
this
of
really
Dalek.
good stuff, and, like, Cassandra is in there, and all the Doctors, their costumes are all there. That was pretty cool. But there's a space where there's someone obviously missing and it's just question marks.
Cool.
And people are like, is that going to be the 14th Doctor? Are they just going to appear there one day?
That would be, I mean, better or worse than Doctor Who Live, The Next Doctor? Much worse.
It would be much worse.
Much worse. I don't know why I even asked that question. I guess whenever I think Doctor Who Live, I just have the after party in my head.
Yeah.
But
it's that sort of typo, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Wasn't Bruno Tonioli on...
You're going to say Bruno Toffolo then?
Was Bruno Tonioli not on Doctor Who Live, The Next Doctor, talking about how much I love Doctor Who?
Yeah. When I came to England, I didn't speak any English and I could watch Doctor Who because I didn't understand it anyway.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Right. The only other bit of news, I suppose, besides Russell liking Instagram comments and people suddenly thinking that's how he's communicating the behind-the-scenes nature.
Apparently, though, he's blocking
people. I saw that as well. That's pretty good.
I can just imagine Russell there, like, end scene. Right, I'll just have a little break, go on to Instagram. Oh, bloody hell, not more of these people.
Fucking block, block, block. It's going to be strange. I mean, provided he doesn't get hounded off the internet, which would be very sad. A bit like Stephen Moffat was, really.
Yeah.
It would be interesting having... entirely mine, yeah. It would be a bit weird to see, like, an active showrunner with, like, a active social media presence, especially, like, these days.
I mean, like, Chris Chibnall, you never saw him.
No.
No. Did he exist? It's like that... that thing in The Simpsons where, like, no one knows who Matt Groening is.
Oh, yeah, right.
But yeah, it would be nice if he was. I mean, if he was more vocal, and I think I think he knows that any publicity is good publicity.
Exactly.
He knows that
all
I need to do is post a picture of my glasses on my forehead.
Yeah,
and that's it. Internet goes mad.
Absolutely.
There was a thing today. So again, this is St. Patrick's Day for you people listening in the future.
Yeah.
There was a thing today where it was like an industry thing for students.
Yes.
I sent it to you and I went, oh, is that happening?
Yeah.
Because Russell was there doing a talk
Phil
about...
Collinson was there.
Yeah, Phil Collinson was there. And it's like, oh my God.
Crazy.
It's so weird.
And that space they're in, that might be the new studio that the TARDIS is built in and stuff. Like
bonkers. We should have been there. We could have snuck in as students.
Yeah, and just, berated them and got chucked out and restraining orders issued.
Give us a job.
So, today we're going to talk about... one highly contentious episode of Doctor Who for me.
Yeah.
And I'll hopefully be able to. It's kind of where a lot of the Moffat bashing, I think, that I get accused of, and that, to be honest, I may have regularly taken part in on this podcast.
Yeah.
Kind of stems from.
Yeah.
Is this episode of Doctor Who Hellbent? We're going to talk about Heaven Sent first.
Yeah.
Because these two stories for me absolutely typify the very, very best of Stephen Moffat and the very, very worst of Stephen Moffat.
Okay, interesting.
I really, really like Heaven Sent.
Same. I loved Heaven Sent.
And it was a joy going back and watching it again.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole kind of Capaldi era for me is really muddied by Stephen's writing, by finales, by just certain tropes, certain things that happen that you think, almost there.
Yeah.
Almost there. And so it was really interesting going back and watching these episodes again, because I thought they had a duality of kind of best and worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
But in much the same way we've said this recently about David Tennant, I think Peter Capaldi, I think I've got him now. I get why people like him so much.
So, well, it's interesting you should say that, because, I mean, I've made no bones in the past saying that I think Peter Capaldi is the best new series Doctor.
Yeah.
And it was watching Heaven Sent where I was just like, I think this is the story, because I remember when he was announced, I was over the moon, because I was like, yes, he's an older guy, he's a fan, he gets it, he looks like Doctor Who. And then I remember watching that first series, and although I enjoyed Series 8 for the most part, I didn't really gel with his Doctor entirely, which annoyed me, because I was like, no, I'm supposed to really like, you're supposed to be the one, you're the chosen one, come on. And it never really happened. And then I was watching this episode, Heaven Sent, and I thought to myself, I think this is the episode where, for me, it really clicked. That it's like, oh yeah, you are Doctor Who. I don't know what it is. There's just something about him. It's the same sort of feeling I get with Tom Baker. And I sort of said this to Jonathan, my brother, the other day. And he sort of said, oh, well, he's not as good as Tom Baker, though. I thought, well, no, obviously Tom Baker is Tom Baker. But I think for the new series Doctor, he is the Doctor that I think is effortlessly Doctor Who-esque. Not in the same way as Tom, but there's just something about in the way he holds himself. Just, like, even the little things where he's, you know, the fact that he can carry the entire episode just talking to himself. And, you know, you get all those lovely little asides where there's that moment where he looks at the camera in the TARDIS. And I was just like, yeah, that's it. That's the Doctor, you know. That's what you want, you know. I don't mind. I know some people probably get pissy about, oh, don't look at the camera. But I don't know, there's something quite comforting and sort of doctorish about, oh, actually...
It's the Tom Baker energy. It's
the
unpredictable,
what
is he going to do next? And the complete alienness.
Yes.
Like, he's got that ethereal... It's almost like a Bowie thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's not quite from here.
Yeah.
And the way he holds himself, and the way he even pronounces things, emotes and stuff. There's just, it's like Tom. Like, nobody rolls certain words like Tom, you know. And there's something about Peter Capaldi that just works. That silhouette.
The silhouette, visually. I mean, and this is the best. You know, he's in the best outfit in this story.
Yeah.
Like, the costume is never bettered than when he's in that bloody burgundy costume.
Yeah.
And it's annoying that they didn't really use it that much.
And it's annoying that he goes from that to that bizarre tux, double-breasted jacket thing, which he suddenly gets on Gallifrey.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
They sort of say, don't they? It's like, oh, where's she? Well, Jenna says, doesn't she? She's like, where's your coat? She said,
very
it's
doctorish.
Very doctorish, yeah. And it's, again, this is another thing about this era of the programme where it has been on for so long that now we're like, oh, we'll just be meta with stuff. And
well, I mean, this is this the most meta the show ever kind of gets? Because especially in this Moffat tenure, when you get towards the end of Matt Smith and here, they're really examining the show, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're really forcing certain questions and challenging what you expect the show to have been about. So, for example, there's a massive one in Heaven Sent, of course, which is the Cole confession dial thing, which we'll talk about. The setup for the confession dial leads the Doctor to confess on screen that he didn't leave Gallifrey because he was bored.
Yeah.
And that is a major thing to drop.
Yeah.
And watching it now, I don't think I appreciated what a immense thing that is to reference.
Yeah.
And to contradict.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I know a lot of people say that the Timeless Child contradicts stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that people aren't particularly happy with the way that was set up or the payoff for certain things that were led on to. But I do find that less egregious than the Doctor saying that he left Gallifrey for some other reason. I find that really annoying because it challenges an archetype of the Doctor. The Doctor's timeline, whether they had lives in between that were wiped or took place in alternative realities or sidesteps in time or whatever. Doctor Who can do that. It can do crazy stuff and it can eradicate elements of the Doctor's history and add bits in. But to challenge the actual character, which I think happens a lot in Hellbent and is set up here, I find more egregious in terms of altering the show's past.
See, I remember at the time when that was said, I remember thinking, God, how dare you, why have you done this? But then thinking back on it, even in stories like Legopolis, the Doctor says, oh, I left under rather pressing circumstances, from what I remember. And I kind of think, well, yeah, maybe saying, oh, okay, I was bored, all right, fair enough. But I actually don't know if I kind of don't mind the fact that maybe there was something else going on. And again, that kind of almost ties in with the sort of Sylvester McCoy stuff with there's more to him than we really know and we'll never get to the bottom of it. Timeless Children be damned.
But I think that takes place so much further in the past.
Timeless Children.
Yeah. Like all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that's like,
And the other, and the Cartmel master plan stuff.
Yeah.
That almost takes place in a time where the Doctor's like another being. They're like another sentience, among Time Lord society.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get to the Academy, and then the first Doctor growing up, becoming an older man and running away with his granddaughter. Yeah. I think, I might be wrong, but I've always thought that was just the established thing of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And so when that part of it is challenged, something, is it headcanon? Or is that fairly well established that was the case?
I guess it's so vague, isn't it? That whole portion of the Doctor's history. And rightly so. I don't think we should ever really know for certain what it's all about.
Maybe I'm being too precious about it then.
Yeah, because I think I remembered it being very clear that he was like, oh, I left Gallifrey because of the hybrid. And I think they sort of touch upon that as like, oh, perhaps that is why you left.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's actually ever said in...
So you brought the hybrid,
the hybrid. Oh, God.
Keep going. We'll get right to
this
it.
Poor two-parter. That's another thing. Is it a two-parter? Is it a three-parter? I would call it a three-parter, personally.
With Face the Raven before. Yeah, I call it a three-parter.
Apparently, according to the BBC numbering, they are all separate episodes.
Yeah.
They do feel very distinct.
They're presented as such, aren't they, really? Yeah.
I would say possibly Heaven Sent into Hellbent is more of a two-parter, but yeah, I digress. That doesn't really... Okay. That doesn't hurt me as much as some of the other things in this story.
Maybe I feel that way because of the way it's eventually paid off or explained in the finale. Because it's so half-baked.
Yes, this is the trouble.
If it was something that was concrete, explained, that they kind of sowed the seeds of, maybe we'll explain it next year. Yeah. But it's what do you do in a series of Doctor Who? You have 13 episodes, or 10 or 12 or whatever. And what did Russell do? You drip feed a phrase through the early parts of the series. Yeah. Then that eventually starts a kind of snowballing motion where things build up, and eventually in the finale, you pay off Bad Wolf, Torchwood, Saxon, the stars are going out. Yeah. Pandorica. Yeah. Silence Will Fall, whatever. Yeah. And that's where it starts to get shaky around Silence Will Fall. Pandorica kind of works. Yeah. I think in terms of, maybe it makes sense as a whole, but for an audience at home, I don't think this, Silence Will Fall versus Torchwood. Yeah. There's no comparison in terms of audience, getting hooked by it. Yeah. And in this, I can't remember how many times the hybrid was brought up in previous episodes this season. No. But it kind of feels like it's being set up right now. Yeah. And we're going to pay it off in a 3 to 5 minute scene with me in Hellbent.
Yes, yeah.
And we're going to keep muddying the waters, even though this is the scene where we're going to find out what the hybrid is.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. Okay, we'll talk about it later. This is the scene. Let's actually talk about the hybrid Doctor.
Yeah.
And they don't actually say what it is. And it's, and that's the reason the Doctor left Gallifrey.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy that, and I think the suggestion is perhaps that's why the Doctor left Gallifrey. But I think that's almost kind of, I think Stephen possibly even clears that up in Twice Upon a Time when Bill talks to the first Doctor and he sort of says, I wanted to, almost like a scientific experiment, he wanted to see how does good prevail in a universe where the odds are, always stacked against it. And I don't know, maybe that was spearheaded by the hybrid. Who gives a fuck? Forget the hybrid.
Let's forget Hellbent for a second.
Yeah,
because we're drifting.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Let's start from the beginning. Right. So, what was number 1 in the charts when Heaven Sent came out?
Right. What year was this?
2015.
2015.
November, December.
Wow. Now, had we met Peter by this point? Had we gone onto the TARDIS set? Because I remember when I watched Hellbent, there was the Next Time trailer for The Husbands of River Song, which is absolute horse manure of a story. And I watched the trailer and I was like, wow, this looks awful.
I didn't stick around to watch the Next Time trailer.
I couldn't remember if there was one. I thought, is there a Next Time trailer? Because
Yeah.
it's sort of close to Christmas. And there was. And I thought,
maybe we had.
we might have met him by that point.
Yeah, because we'd seen the red velvet.
We saw him in his
costume.
red velvet costume.
And I think maybe when
Did
it
you
was
put
on...
your arm around him when you had a picture?
Oh, I touched him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt his aura.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry by Justin Bieber, by the way. Box office number 1?
I say it every time, some Marvel bloody film, isn't it?
No, it's not. Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. When they, when Harry Potter started that really annoying trend of splitting movies to make twice the amount of money.
Why did they do that?
But that had just unseated Spectre
Ooh,
as box office number 1.
interesting.
I thought this might be a really interesting opportunity. While we're talking about big moments, big canonical moments in a fictional character's history that centre around a not very satisfying central kind of premise.
Yeah.
Should we talk about No Time to Die very, very briefly?
Yeah,
because
sure.
it's out on home media.
Yeah.
Everybody knows James Bond dies at the end.
Yeah. Does he?
What do you think of that? And what do you think of the movie?
Oh, I loved No Time to Die.
Yeah.
I've only seen it once, so I need to watch it again, but I loved it. I just thought it was so good.
I really love No Time to Die.
Yeah.
The only thing that gripes me is that it's Safin that kills Bond, because I think he's such a weak villain.
Okay.
I just feel like...
Yeah, I feel like they could have done more with him.
What is his motivation?
Yeah, I'm not really 100%.
I was saying to Matt before, I just watched Calvin Dyson's 3-hour No Time to Die review. But when you watch it, you're like, this is really messy. Like, and there's weird things as well, like he's definitely supposed to be Dr. No, because there's a line of dialogue they did in ADR where one of the guards calls him Doctor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Excellent.
the mask that he wears
is like
it's called a No mask.
Right, okay.
NOH.
Right.
And the Garden of Death and
all
that
that sort of stuff. Yeah. And actually, when I remember when the picture of him in the mask came out, I've got on my Dr. No book that is quite pulpy. And the face on that for Dr. No is very similar to the mask. And I was like, oh, so he's Dr. No? And then when he wasn't Dr. No, I was like, oh, that's a shame.
And also in the opening where little Madeline shoots him, he's got a bullet hole over where his heart should be.
Right.
But in the books, Dr. No's heart is on the other side of his body.
Right.
So that's why he didn't die when he was shot directly in the heart area.
Interesting.
And the film is called No Time to Die.
Yeah.
There's some very serious allusions that it was supposed to be.
I wonder why that
Dr.
changed.
No. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's lots of weird stuff going on in that movie.
Weird.
Like that. But, even having said that, to come out of it thinking, it's kind of one of my favourite Craig movies.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Really good. And emotional. Did you get choked up?
I think the second time I did.
I did the first time. I was just like...
Yeah.
Me and my brother.
It's like you're watching your, movie heroes die. It doesn't happen.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen. Yeah, you're right. The only other time I think I've ever sort of got emotional about that was like when Christian Bale died or didn't die in The Dark Knight Rises.
Batman. Yeah, movie.
But certainly on this one, yeah, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And then just the music with like having Louis Armstrong
I
singing.
thought that was a bit much.
Did
Just
you?
just a
Oh
bit
no,
much.
I thought that. Oh, that.
I like the fact that it is
at my
kind of
heartstrings.
it's an anthem for death in the Bond movies.
Yeah.
You know, like Tracy dies and it plays, Bond dies and it plays. Like, that's kind of cool. But I think the coolest part of it is that it opens up the fact that James Bond can now like die in these movies.
Yeah.
There's genuine peril now.
Yeah.
Like unless you know an actor is signed on to do X number of movies. That could just kind of be the way that they're written out now.
I forgot to message you yesterday, but apparently Cillian Murphy is now the bookie's favourite.
Yeah, like odds got slashed, didn't they? Like
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and everybody's fairly certain.
Yeah.
I can see that.
He could be a good Bond, yeah.
I can see him being that kind of like Fleming,
Yes.
kind of
He's got that.
angular, kind of cruel face. I think he's described as
there's
having like
something-
cruel eyes and stuff.
Yeah, because he always plays a good baddie. He was good in Red, and he was sort of kind of creepy as the Scarecrow. But I think, he's got that strange face where he's good-looking guy, but there's also something quite sinister about him, and I think that works for Bond. You know?
Yeah.
Because
he's
he's a killer, isn't he?
He's an assassin. So, yeah.
I like that idea that it would be him, and I guess he's a good age. What, late 30s maybe?
Yeah. You can get 3 movies out of him.
Yeah. Like he's just finished on Peaky Blinders, so it was a good time for him.
Exactly.
That's done. He's done that massive, great big thing.
Yeah.
It's a sort of pretty international success.
And it's kind of like more going into the Saint.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
then
and Brosnan and Remington Steele.
Yeah,
going into the Bond
yeah.
movie. So it kind of works. Yeah. Well, I'll say I'll go for Cillian Murphy. I think he'd be very
he'd
good.
be good. Yeah, he wasn't someone that I sort of really thought about until that happened. I was like,
What do you think of Spectre?
I rewatched Spectre recently. It's okay. I would much rather watch Spectre than Quantum of Solace, which I thought was quite possibly the worst James Bond film I've ever seen. I watched it and I was like, I don't really know what the plot is. It's something to do with oil and some like shitty little tiny town, city, country that he wants to buy out, and it's like, what? And they're gonna blow it up or something. And it's like, it's not really like the end of the world stakes, is it?
I watched all of the Craig movies leading up to No Time to Die, and I came away from watching Quantum of Solace thinking, actually, I quite like. I don't quite like it. I like it more than I did before.
Interesting.
I can appreciate it more.
Yeah.
And I think as a Bond movie, it's like not great, but as like an action espionage film, it's fine.
Yeah, I think the way it's directed as well, it's very
There's some
skittish.
weird editing in there.
Yeah, and I remember watching it in the cinema thinking, I'm not really 100% sure where anything is or what is happening, but
the geography of it
it's very odd. And then watching it again, I was like, I'm lost.
Yeah. Watch Andrew Ellard's video on it, his video notes on it are really good.
Oh, interesting.
And it kind of, it does sort of open up parts of the story you maybe didn't recognise or notice before, and it makes it a bit more enjoyable.
You know, and it's a shame really because, you know, the after someone like Vesper, you get Olga Kurylenko's character, and she's kind of just a bit of a damsel in distress. And then the baddie, you know, he's got sort of something there. You're like, oh, you're really horrible, but it just needs a bit more to it.
It's like they're still not giving their baddies gimmicks, or like they're still not giving their baddies a scar or whatever. I know that's not particularly right on these days, which makes sense. You know, you don't really want to make disfigurement something that like evil. You know what I mean? But you know, they're not gimmicked in any way. They're not doing it for a particular crazy reason.
Yeah. And then of course, it gets all mucky with Quantum and then Spectre coming in. And it's a shame that they couldn't clean that up better.
They were just so desperate to do like a big organisation, and they just didn't have the rights to Spectre yet, and they were like, well, Quantum is Spectre, but they're kind of not
like
the same thing.
Subsidiary of it, or so.
They're a
really
sister
weird.
company of the subsidiary. The big. There was a merger at some point. I think, between Spectre and Quantum.
But I like the fact that in other films, like you see all the other baddies. You know, they're all like on a family tree of like villains.
And some of them pop up in No Time to Die as well. Some of the people in the party are like from the other movies.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's cool.
Very cool. Okay, let's talk about Heaven Sent.
Right, sorry, I was really enjoying talking about Bond.
It was good fun. So,
coming soon.
Clara is the
review of Bond.
We're talking about Bond.
Clara's dead.
Rob. The review of Bond. Right. Clara's dead.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Face the Raven a little bit.
Yeah.
So she dies at the end of that previous episode.
Yeah.
Trap Street.
Very
it's all
sad.
very Diagon Alley and
It
weird.
is
That one.
Diagon
I
Alley,
can't really remember anything about it. But, she dies.
Yeah.
And that's it. Did you think she was going to come back?
Well, DWM spoiled it, didn't they? Because the cover reveal had her in the diner outfit. And it was like, oh, well, she's coming back. That's so annoying. I mean, let's just talk about Clara very quickly. And I think Clara Oswald is the worst thing to happen to the Capaldi era. But she's also really good. So, like in Series 8, I think her and Peter, great companion. It's that sort of Tom Baker, Sarah Jane vibe. They work
with a bit of like Sixie and Perry thrown in.
Yeah, because
they really go at each other, don't they?
But they work very well, and you sort of can't really imagine them with anyone else. Like you can't really imagine Colin with anyone else.
No.
He doesn't quite work with Bonnie Langford. I mean, they're fine, but it's
just
different, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's more of a rapport, and I think that's the same here. The trouble is when she stayed on for a little bit longer. So, she was supposed to go in Last Christmas, which would have been such a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
That he goes to see her, and there she is. She's all young, but no, she's not. She's old, but because he's a time traveler and he sees everybody differently, he can see everyone's time streams. She's not old to him, which I just think so nice.
Was very
it's
touching.
Really touching. And I love the idea of that, he just stayed with her until she passed in her sleep, and that was it. That was the end of the story. Then we get all this stuff. We get all this stuff about she's trying to match the Doctor, and she's almost trying to be the Doctor. And this was always a weird thing with Moffat and this character, sort of wanting to make a Doctor.
I was trying to remember if it was going to be in the opening credits of Hell Bent that her face appears in the title sequence. And then I remembered it was the previous year's finale.
This is the weird thing.
So they've had this Clara Who thing going on for a little while.
Yeah.
And do you think it kind of gets resolved here? Because the story is she steps up to be the Doctor.
Yeah.
And she gets killed by a crow.
Yeah.
Kills her.
James Corden, what?
She's gone,
Yeah.
right? So stepping up to be the Doctor when you're not the Doctor gets you killed.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the story, right?
Yeah. That's good.
That's good.
That's a really good thing, because that just, you cannot be the Doctor.
No. Unless, how do I work my way out of this? Unless I contrive that he brings her out of her time stream, right? And she's still alive, and then she's also like immortal because of something
she's a fixed point.
She's a fixed point in history, and you can't change the past. You can't mess with established continuity unless it's Clara Oswald, of course.
Yeah.
All those other times where he could have gone back and saved Adric or whatever. Whatever. It's Clara Oswald is the important part of it all, really. And then you give her a TARDIS, so she stepped up to be a companion. So she stepped up to be the Doctor, died, and then we gave her a TARDIS and she became the Doctor anyway.
Yeah.
So, and what happens to her afterwards? They go back to Gallifrey.
No, they go swanning off around the universe for a bit.
Oh, okay,
and
fine.
Then they go back. Because they're both immortal, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she says we'll go and visit some places first. And so...
And I think earlier on in the series, they make some sort of suggestion that me and Clara might sort of fancy each other a little bit. So, this is all just going straight into Moffat's /fiction pot of I'm going to have two young immortal women that fancy each other.
Going around the TARDIS in their American diner.
Are very obviously electrically charged people with their eccentricities and stuff and their zest for life. Mm-hmm. Who knows what might happen in that American diner? It's like, come on, really?
God. So Clara, is the Doctor. Clara is as good as, is as powerful as, is as moral as the Doctor.
Yeah.
And I know that we have that thing where the Doctor is made more human by their companions and stuff. But it very rarely happens that the Doctor is diminished. I don't want to say diminished, because he's not diminished by it's just seeing him in that state where he can't remember, he can't recall things.
Yeah.
And Clara's being a step ahead the whole time. And it's like, again, we're talking about Hellbent already.
Yeah.
But you can't really not talk about Clara and this whole finale with that, because this is her swan song, you know. That she asks him to recount the story about herself to her, and doesn't sort of, you know, let on that everything will be all right. You know, he kind of goes off, walks off into the sunset, thinking, no, you know, I can't remember why I was upset, but maybe I was upset at some point, and he makes peace with the stuff that he can't remember. Yeah. But it does feel like, again, listen, she's under the bed and tells the First Doctor
exactly
not to be scared of the monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
She's got a guiding hand in this.
She's omnipresent, isn't she?
Alien being's life.
Yeah.
In this time traveling.
Yeah, you know,
alien's
even
life.
to the point of saying, "Oh, take that TARDIS," which fucking annoyed me.
And
that was bad enough, and then for them the following year to be like, "Hey, William Hartnell,
Yeah.
here's your mantra for the rest of time." It's
she's
frustrating.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that she is the, you know, she's very good, but she bogs down that series quite a bit.
Jenna Coleman is excellent.
Jenna Coleman is superb. She's such a good actress. And watching this, I mean, all I put was Jenna Coleman, 2 hearts next to it, because, she's so good.
And so awesome that she's gone on to do loads of really high-profile, cool stuff.
And actually, even at the end, when she is going around the TARDIS console and she's flicking all the switches and she's talking like the Doctor, I was watching it and I was like, I couldn't really appreciate it at the time because we hadn't had a lady Doctor by that point. But watching it back now, I was like, it's
weird. It's not framed like that, is it? But when you watch it now, you're like, well, yeah, that's kind of what it's almost setting up now, isn't it? And obviously with the General in that episode as well.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, really, that you think all that, you know, and how big that was at the time. Like, you know, obviously I've got issues with the Doctor shooting the General
but
we'll get onto that. So I think it was a shame. It was a shame they carried her on post the Christmas special because it drags this series down. I think it would have been much nicer to have had his second series be a fresh start, you know. He is the carryover, and then you've got a new companion to give it a zest of life, which is exactly what happens in Series 10.
Exactly.
Which is why Series 10 is so good.
Yeah.
But then for them to then kill her off in Face of the Raven, and then do all this, it's again like, oh, really? It's the bloody Rory thing. How many times can you kill that bastard all the fucking time? You know. And I like Rory, but it became a joke. It became a joke within the series. They're like, oh, keeps on dying. And it's just like, oh, he just didn't know when to stop. I think this is the problem. He needed someone to just turn around and be like, I think dramatically it would be better if you just leave her dead, Stephen. Because I think the Doctor could still have gone off and had that vengeful, I'm going to get you, Rassilon and the Time Lords.
But that's what I thought Hellbent was going to be.
Yeah.
And when it isn't, and you only have a quarter of the episode, Doctor Who versus Rassilon, on Gallifrey for the first time properly in forever, and then it's not that. They run around the catacombs for, you know, in the cloisters for 15 minutes.
I put it in my notes that this is a very muddled finale because it feels like Stephen wanted to tell the story of Clara and the Doctor trying to escape Gallifrey and all this sort of stuff. But he remembered, oh shit, I've set up all this stuff about trying to find Gallifrey and all this kind of stuff. And Rassilon's there and he's still in power, but he's a baddie, so, oh shit, I've got to try and get him out the way before I can really get into the story that I want to tell.
And you've got Donald Sumpter as Rassilon, and it's like, I can't believe we're only seeing 15 minutes of what this conflict could be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if it turns out, you know, the Time Lords are responsible for Clara's death or whatever, you know, he's on a vengeful spree. Yeah. Then why don't we have that story? We have to have Clara back in the story. Yeah. For God knows what reason. Yeah. It's so. I don't know if Stephen doesn't like happy endings. I don't know if he doesn't like it when characters can't walk off into the sunset in some way. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if that's his style. You know. But it just seems to me that you're right. He just doesn't know when to stop. When he's got a good idea or something's dramatically paid off, he has to subvert it in a way that it kind of ruins the drama of it slightly for me. And I think that's my problem. And as you said at the beginning, with the Capaldi thing, it's so close to being so good. But then something just happens that sweeps you under the rug. Maybe it's a production choice, like Missy's face coming out of the computer.
Oh, fuck me.
In The Magician's Apprentice. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's just something like that what is going on?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
It's baffling, and not even in a kind of, Pip and Jane Baker, early Sylve era kind of.
What is it?
Ken Dodd? What's Ken Dodd doing there?
Yeah.
It's not even that kind of thing. It's like, who made that choice there? Anyway, let's talk about Heaven Sent for the third time. That whole opening with Capaldi coming out of the teleport and wandering around, all so good.
Yeah.
And his narration about death, being born alongside you and following you is so good.
Yeah.
And obviously the story is an allegory for grief.
Yeah.
And sort of getting over, trauma or whatever, and saying it's always there at the back of your mind, and you can't really get over it.
Yeah.
And, all that kind of stuff.
And I love that line where he says, because there's some great lines in this.
There really
story.
are some brilliant bits of
but there's that really lovely line where he says, the worst day isn't when someone dies, it's when they stay dead. The following days.
Because at least you have something to do.
You have something to do, and that's so true. That is so true. Yes, it is such a good story and beautifully directed.
Yeah, Rachel
Talalay is just, she is on top form here. And it's a shame really because, the direction for the next story is good.
Yeah.
But I think this one really shows what an imaginative sort of visual storyteller she is.
I think that's because the script is allowing her to do that. Because really, if you look at the script, it probably isn't as long as most Doctor Who scripts, because you get bursts of monologue from Peter Capaldi, and then action and running and montages and stuff like that. So it is kind of letting her creative vision sort of breathe. Like all the stuff in the TARDIS when Moffat loves a mind palace, because it also obviously happens in Sherlock, and you think this is a thing that he does. It's a trope of his.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it, I have to say.
Really?
And I think it works really well in here.
Okay.
Because it's almost like he's a radiator that needs to be bled. It's like he needs to let steam off. Let me have a 1.5 minute scene where I rip through some dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's really sharp.
Yeah. And
really entertaining to watch, especially to watch Peter Capaldi perform it.
Yeah.
Because that's a great marriage. Stephen Moffat dialogue in those moments and Peter Capaldi. It just works really, really well. And then when you add Rachel Talalay and the way she's making these monologues move, and the stuff with the chalkboard and the way that all cuts together and stuff, it's brilliant. Yeah. It's so good.
And on top of that, I think obviously it's a very stylish production generally, the way it's shot and, the look of the place. I mean, the castle that they've shot at is lovely. And obviously the design of it in CGI form is really cool. But I've got to say, props to Murray Gold, because I think...
I was going to say exactly the same thing.
I think the score is possibly about an hour long of all new music, pretty much, give or take like the 12th Doctor's theme and maybe a bit of Clara.
And there's a bit of like Shepherd's Boy that gets reused in the next one as well.
Yeah, so the Shepherd's Boy... Yeah, this is like the first... It's obviously Shepherd's Boy is used in Day of the Doctor, sort of briefly. But this is like the first big hurrah. And I think that's probably one of his sort of best pieces of music.
Yeah.
And I just think the whole thing is so good, because I was trying to be a clever bugger and sound like I was very cultured. But to me, the score, it's, again, kind of sort of funereal, do you know what I mean? It's got that sort of funeral vibe, but it's kind of like Beethoven's Symphony No. 7, Allegretto.
I think I was thinking of exactly the same piece of music, because I think Charlie Brooker uses it a lot in his wipe shows.
I think, And
I was like, I recognise where he's kind of getting that motif from, or that cue from. And I've said before, I've kind of, probably been wrong in saying, Murray Gold's slavering music all over this stuff. But as somebody very rightly pointed out in the comments of one of our earlier videos, he just writes to the material he's given.
Yeah.
It's not his choice how much or how little of it goes in. And there's a couple of bits where I think it would have been better if it was left quiet. Like the bit where he goes into that room with the fireplace and his clothes drying the first time.
Okay.
Especially after such a rush
Yeah.
of, he's diving and he's calculating all this kind of stuff, and then you have that kind of like moment of, but because the music's still playing over it, it kind of doesn't let you settle and reset into that sort of calm at that point.
Like the Doctor is doing.
Exactly. But I have to say, I think it was a really, really, really great score.
Yeah.
Listening to it today, I didn't realise how much electronic stuff he was still using. Like the synths are very, very 80s.
That wonderful bit where he looks at the painting and you've got such a like Peter Howley 80s thing, and it's like, oh,
and
that's
the flies
good.
on. It's a bit of the flies on the thing. Should we talk about the Great Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come?
Yeah, the veil is really cool. I think it's a genuinely scary monster because it's just the Grim Reaper coming to get you.
And the fact it's got flies,
yeah,
it's like the stench of death. Oh, it's such a great kind of a cue for a monster.
Yeah,
that it's in its wake. You've got all this horrible stuff. Yeah, and then it reeks. But then it's made out of cogs in the end.
I was just about to say, when that happened, I was kind of like, I'd have sooner it just like fizzled and it was just the robes were on the floor.
Do you reckon we're travelling up its robes in the title sequence then?
Is that us going between its legs? I was kind of thinking that. I was like, what is it about this era and cogs? Yeah. Oh my God. Are we travelling up the...
You never know.
I mean, we don't know what it's got going on down there, but we're travelling up it, whatever it is. I like the veil. I think the veil's really cool. And I love the way that Talele builds tension, especially in that scene with the painting, where he's looking at the painting, and then it just cuts to the screen and the POV shot of the veil coming towards him, and you're like, oh, he's there in his own little world.
There's a couple of bits where it's lingering in the background, and you can just about see it, and there's a couple of bits as well in Hellbent where you can see the cloister wraiths moving in the background and stuff. Just to keep things happening in the background, just makes it all seem like it's all still a threat. You're in the throng of it.
It's very good. And there's also that other great moment where it seems like he's looking at nothing, and the Doctor's like, well, where the hell is it? And then he opens the door and he's there. I mean, there's so many good, like, sort of jumpy moments, and, the bit in the grave. It's such a good story. It's such a good story. I think at the time I didn't quite get it, but on subsequent rewatches, and especially this time, I was just like, this is such a good piece of television.
It's got that Kinder thing to it, where it's like an uneasy sort of fever dream thing, and
I can't imagine another series that would have a go at doing something like this.
Exactly.
This feels like such a Doctor Who-y thing to do. The other thing that came to mind was, could we imagine another Doctor doing this story?
No. It's like Tom in Genesis, or Peter in Earthshock.
Yeah.
You can't imagine.
I could not imagine.
In this story.
Like, we've talked quite a lot, and I know it's a big complaint about, Jodie's Doctor giving these big speeches and stuff, and it never really quite feeling natural. And I sort of kind of thought that. I was like, my God, I could not imagine her being able to get, all that stuff in the TARDIS where he's going around, chatting to Clara. I was like, I can't imagine her doing it, and I couldn't imagine any of them doing it, really. There's just something about Peter Capaldi where it was like, this is his story.
He makes the words carry weight in a way that I think other performers who've played the Doctor sometimes haven't been able to do.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like rabbity dialogue.
Yeah.
When it's just like, machine gun fire quips and clever little one-liners and stuff, which is what Moffat's, very strong at in his dialogue. And I think that sometimes, we've said it before, like actors who've played the Doctor can make it feel a bit laboured or sound a little bit forced.
Yeah.
But like maybe it's the way Peter paces himself or the way it's been staged, but it just feels very natural. It just feels like a monologue. It feels like a theatrical performance you're watching, like a stage performance.
Yeah, I just watching it, all I could think of is, man, I miss you as Doctor Who. I miss him so much. I don't know if I mentioned this when we did the 60th anniversary, what we'd like to see.
Yeah.
But if he does not come back for the 60th, I will be so disappointed. I really, it's been a few years now. if anyone gets a mini-sode, please let it be Peter.
I think he's often overlooked, for me anyway,
Yeah.
as like somebody who could come back and do it, or that I would want to see come back and do it.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of get the impression a little bit that, him and Doctor Who had their time together, and he's, not in any rush to revisit it. And that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't think
with Tom.
Like Tom,
Yeah.
not quite like Chris, but somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
And I think I'd love to see him back. But when I think of the likelihood of it, I think he's as low down as Chris.
Yeah.
In a way, for different reasons. But I think that maybe he's like, creatively, I've done that.
Yeah.
Rather than I've got ghosts or whatever from that time.
It's a shame, isn't it? And like, I've seen pictures of him, going around when they were shooting the Suicide Squad, and he was basically dressed as Doctor Who. He went into a comic book shop and there was his cover, and he's basically dressed as Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Like, you're still Doctor Who.
Yeah. He so loved doing it.
Yeah.
And that you can tell it was just like boyhood dream.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason that this story works so well is I think this is the kind of Doctor Who that he's always kind of wanted to be. Like, it is almost like watching a really good fan of the show playing a Doctor, because he's so effortlessly Doctor Who. He knows exactly the kind of way that the Doctor would say something or look at something or regard a person or a situation.
Yeah.
He's just pinpoint accurate with every part of that portrayal.
I think this is the story where maybe the production were kind of like, this is what his Doctor needs to be like. Because obviously you had the first series
Grumpy
was a bit
arsehole.
too grumpy, and sort of downright horrible at times. And then, of course, you've got them an entire flip at the first half of Series 9 with, you obviously still got these stupid bloody glasses.
Yeah, I noted the Sonic sunglasses.
I'd forgotten about the sunglasses, and then when they turned up, I was like, ugh. But, and I like the guitar. I think at the time I was like, oh, I don't like the guitar. But I actually do like the guitar. I like that he's got a little
if you would like the one that he has in Hellbent, it is a 66 Epiphone G600 with a Bigsby Telecaster vibrato.
Right.
And if you want the black one, which I think is the really cool looking one, the
sparkly one, yeah.
That is a Yamaha SGV 800, cosplay fans. There you go.
Wow. How much would that fetch you?
Well, it's an Epiphone. Basically, it's a Gibson SG, the one in Hellbent.
Right.
But an Epiphone do cheap versions of Gibson SG. So if you want a cheap alternative, get just an Epiphone SG and you'll have the same guitar as him.
Thank you.
But the Yamaha one, and I think it's quite disappointing is because of the copyright around guitar shapes. You can't have them as action figure accessories because it just kind of makes sense. Because does he come with a guitar?
So none of the character options figures come with the guitar, but the upcoming Big Chief Studios figure comes with the guitar.
I'd be interested to see what it looks like. I've never seen the pictures of it or not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good figure because I've worked on that one.
There you go.
It's good story.
We get our first mention here, though, Matt, of the hybrid.
Oh yeah.
So shall we talk a bit about what the hybrid is? Because I've got a list of all the different things we're told about the hybrid.
Yeah, I wanted
across
to look
these
this
two,
up.
right?
Yeah.
So, the hybrid, according to the 12th Doctor in Heaven Sent, was half Dalek, half Time Lord.
Yeah.
Then it was the Doctor.
Yeah.
He says, I'm the hybrid.
Yeah.
The hybrid is me.
Yeah.
Right?
Interestingly, the script has that the hybrid is me. Me is capitalized, so it is not ambiguous. He obviously means a shielder.
Right.
But obviously, for the purposes of the cliffhanger, you want people. People want to be like, "What? He's been the hybrid the whole time?"
So when you're told, that the hybrid is half Dalek, half Time Lord, you go, "Shit, that's like that's a super weapon. That's like a really interesting conceit." Okay, I'm interested to see the hybrid eventually when it appears.
Yeah.
Half Dalek, half Time Lord. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Doctor. That's the inference that's made. I know me, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the Doctor.
I mean, it is still the Doctor,
a
isn't it?
shielder. Well, we're going to get there. Then it was half something else because the Time Lords say it's two warrior races.
Two warrior races, yeah.
And now it's me. Me is you're the hybrid.
Yeah.
Okay.
A shielder.
But now it's
part human, part
Exactly, Maya.
Maya, that's
right.
it, yeah.
And
that's a shit story.
But all the while that people are, you're the hybrid, this is the hybrid, that's a hybrid. It's not like contradicted in any way. Like, I'm taking this script at face value.
Yeah.
I don't have a fucking clue what the hybrid is.
No, I don't think anyone really does.
No, but like, you know, you're watching it for the first time and you're being told that's the hybrid, and she's the hybrid, and that could be the hybrid, and the hybrid, you know, I like the line of, what colour is it? Like, nobody ever tells you anything, you know, useful. You don't, Stephen. You don't tell us anything useful. And so it makes it really difficult to invest in it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, now it's the show is insinuating it's the Doctor again.
Yeah.
And then,
because he's half human.
Because he's half human potentially. And then, no, actually, it's you and Clara.
Yeah.
In the space of about 2 minutes, you get all these different possible things for what the hybrid is.
Yeah.
So it's the point where you're just like, I honestly don't care anymore.
And I think that feels like such a cop-out, the Doctor and Clara are the hybrid, because that is such a wafer-thin idea. Like, but you wouldn't call them the hybrid. Who would say that? It would be like, oh, this creature. No, it's two people. Well, what the fuck?
And the fact...
That's like saying Laurel and Hardy are the hybrid because one's fat and one's skinny. Oh, you best of both worlds. What the fuck?
And then to muddy it all up again, we're reminded that it was actually down to Missy that they came together in the first place anyway. Yeah. So then you're like, so is it an ancient Time Lord thing? Or how did Missy plant that to the Wraiths? Because the Wraiths told the Doctor about the hybrid, but Missy also... Like, I know it's timey-wimey, and like I said before, I can forgive a lot of...
is what it is.
I can forgive a lot of timey-wimey stuff, but when you actually, you know, people make those River Song timeline charts, and they all look crazy, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool that, you know, someone's tried to make sense of it. But then, you know, you can't have one of those to explain your plot, your whole plot thing for the whole year, for your big kind of... mystery box.
I was really annoyed when Missy got mentioned because she says, "Oh, Missy, the Master."
Yeah.
Just in case people forgot that they were the same person. But it's what she calls him. She's like, the Master, an agent of chaos or something, which is kind of like the Joker-y thing from The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing it the first time and then hearing it the other day. I was just like, ugh, no, don't. You know, that's not the Master. You know, the Master's not... You know, the Master's just an arsehole. You know, he's not... I don't think of the Master as the person there like, what am I going to do, you know?
I think there are certain interpretations that are a bit more like... I think Ainley's the most like that kind of pantomime.
Yeah, but I don't think he necessarily realises, you know, I think
he doesn't have those thought processes.
Yeah, I think in his own head, he's, you know, he doesn't realise how much of a camp pantomime villain he is.
Exactly, but that's what makes the Master funny, because they're dangerous and they are so unself-aware of themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
So that annoyed me, because, and again, it's sort of like, well, fuck talking to this silly cow, me, who I hate that character. That is another issue with Series 9, is that you have two stories slap bang in the middle dedicated to the fact that they were like, shit, how can we get Game of Thrones people to watch Doctor Who? We'll just write in this really shit character and get Maisie Williams to play it.
Whose schedule obviously didn't allow for an awful lot, because in this story, she's on the TARDIS set, and she's on this other set, sat in a chair for a bit.
And she's just like in normal clothes as well. It just feels like she just turned up one day, said, "Right, come on, get it done."
You know, she was from Bristol, so you know, she was only up the road if she needed reshoots and stuff.
But it's a shame, and I mean, this is no offense to her, because I think she's a very good actress and she's excellent in Game of Thrones. But it's just a shame. And then when she mentions the Master, you kind of think, well, why isn't he here?
Well, the 4 knocks.
Yeah, that annoyed me. And I was like, you don't need to go, oh, why is it always 4 knocks? Come on, that was years ago.
And also, you're telegraphing something that isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the camera's going to spin round. And I don't know if they thought that it would elicit the same reaction. Okay, so the camera pans round, and in that chair is John Sim. Holy fuck!
Can you imagine?
Right?
Yeah.
The camera pans round and Ashilda's sat there. Fuck, what?
Not her again.
Who?
Yeah.
You? Me? Us? God. Let's take it from the top. We've got to Hellbent now. We can work through Hellbent now.
Oh, but before we get on to Hellbent.
Go on,
Heaven Sent, so punching the wall.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it's the whole allegory with the Brothers Grimm story. It's kind of like, I mean, where's this come from?
Yeah.
You know, but it's I like it. It's like a visual metaphor. I think it looks quite cool.
Yeah.
And the fact it takes him 4 billion years to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's kind of. I think that it is a cool idea.
Yeah.
That is utterly undermined again by what happens in Hellbent.
True.
I think that doesn't help it being a bit silly.
Okay.
Because it's like he's gone through all of that.
Yeah.
And we'll get onto it, and then he just gets her out of her time stream anyway.
He doesn't even break the skin on his hand. It's very impressive. But no, I mean, I remember at the time thinking this is dumb, and it is silly because obviously, you know, it's not possible. But fuck it, you know, it's fine. You know,
it took him 4 billion years.
It took him 4
maybe
billion
it is
years
possible, you know, realistically.
And I love all that. I love that. You know, the realization, like, oh shit, this isn't even like the first Doctor, the first Peter Capaldi to have done all this stuff. You know, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, what a great story. Let's
talk about Hellbent instead. Yeah. I should say overnights and viewing figures and stuff. Oh, yeah. So Heaven Sent got 4.5 overnight with a 6.1 final.
Right.
And Hellbent...
It was critically praised, wasn't it?
Yeah. Hellbent also got a 6.1 final, but did slightly worse in the overnights, but only by half a mil.
He was robbed not getting an award for that story.
I know.
Why did he not get a BAFTA? Why did they give a BAFTA to some fucking whoever in some bloody police drama? Because it's always that.
Because Doctor Who's not popular. Yeah. Doctor Who's not cool enough to give an award to until Russell's in charge of it again. Then everybody will go, oh,
it's such a shame.
The auteur's Doctor Who. Let's give awards
you
for
would
that.
just be like, this was, you know, why did no one at BAFTA be like, no one has ever done this before. No one's ever just gone, right, let's make an hour-long drama and only have one character in it chatting, you know.
Exactly.
I
bet Tom Baker was watching it and going, that was what I bloody wanted to do. They wouldn't let me.
It would have been better with a talking cabbage.
Charts changed slightly for this week. Formerly it was Sorry by Justin Bieber. Now it's Love Yourself by Justin Bieber. So he's still in the charts, but with a different tune this week.
Right.
Why are we in Nevada, Matthew? Slash that American diner that's now closed on Cardiff Bay.
Yeah, did you ever go there?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Nice people in there. They could tell when Doctor Who fans walked in. It was probably the stench.
Yeah, it always did feel like it was only Doctor Who fans. And then maybe one family of like normal people thinking,
and
what
a
have
kid's
I
birthday in the corner.
Yeah. No, it was nice. It was a nice place and nice milkshakes.
Yeah.
Why are we in Nevada? Pass.
Okay.
Why are we in Nevada?
I don't know. I did notice that Fox's cover of Don't Stop Me Now is playing in the diner, which I thought was quite cool.
That's sweet.
And yeah, I think the gimmick with the guitar is nice. It gives his Doctor something else.
Yeah.
And you don't, you know, it's no different to Patrick Troughton having a recorder.
Yeah.
Except it's slightly bulkier and more difficult to plug in places.
Yeah.
But
not when you've got sonic glasses.
Not when you've got sonic sunglasses.
Yeah. And I like that Clara's theme becomes diegetic sound or non-diegetic sound. I always forget which way around. But yeah, it becomes part of the universe. You know, it's her theme that the Doctor has conjured up from his brain.
It is, you know. The Doctor playing a song called Clara, and Clara asks to be told about Clara. So rather than having a story about the Doctor on Gallifrey, having just wrapped up Clara's death and the Doctor's grief in the previous story, we're actually going to have another story about Clara.
Does that mean that all incidental music in Doctor Who is just a soundtrack
in the Doctor's coming up? That would make sense. I've got a great one that goes da 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 da. Sliders and cloister wraiths, they're quite cool, aren't they?
They're quite cool. It's a shame that there's not more to them, because it's just one of those things where they look good, but they don't really do anything.
Well, I think...
Except, they sound like TIE fighters.
Yeah, they do. That's very odd. They don't do anything because... There's also Daleks, Cybermen, and Weeping Angels down in the cloisters.
The Cloister Wars. And I wrote in my notes, so I was like, fuck me, big finish, hello, where have you been? Where's this Cloister Wars box? You've got Cybermen, you've got Daleks, you've got Weeping Angels. Oh, come on, all the things that you like writing.
You can bring in Romana if you want. You've got all the Gallifrey crew.
You could flesh out Cloister Wraith and all that stuff.
4-part Cloister Wraith box set coming up.
Yeah. Because I thought he was just going to be like, oh, probably left over from the Time War. That makes
but there's
sense.
a whole other thing.
No, these are the Cloister Wars. I mean, maybe that was in the Time War. Who knows? Who cares?
I also love the fact with the Dalek being in there that it got in. It broke in. How the fuck did it sneak in? Did it have a big collar on and just like was queuing up for the canteen and just like, don't mind me, I'm the Time Lord as well. I'm a reformed Dalek or something on remand.
Oh dear. But, I mean, he was in with the sliders, they're just the...
just
gliding along.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, the Cyberman, how did he get in? I mean, technically, Cybermen have a tendency to like dress up as other people because they do it in Tenth Planet.
It's one of those fast ones, so it could just run really quickly through all the
Sonic the Hedgehog his way through the capital.
That's exactly what it did, and the Weeping Angel just blinked in,
yeah,
and then got stuck in the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Doctor is on Gallifrey. He steps through the portal created by the Confession Dial, and he's on Gallifrey. And Gallifrey looks great.
Yeah.
And it's, that panning shot at the end of Heaven Sent when you see the city, it looks great. And
I remember being genuinely surprised. Being like, whoa, Gallifrey!
Yeah. I love Gallifrey.
Yeah.
I think that Gallifrey gets a bad rap as like a boring location to go and visit. Because, we're going to go and talk to Time Lords and their whole thing is boring and blah, blah, blah. But I really like Gallifrey.
When it's done sporadically, and it's made an event, like in the War Games or the Deadly Assassin.
Not every other week like in the 80s.
Yeah, when you then turn up there for like for Arc of Infinity, you're like, all right, and then 5 Doctors, you're like, okay, and then you sort of in Trial of a Time Lord, you're like, all right, okay, these buggers again. But it works here because it's like, okay, you see them sparingly enough. Yeah, I mean, visually it looks great.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I still think the best-looking Gallifrey probably has been in the Chibnall era. Because I think they did a nicer job of really tying it into how it looked in The Deadly Assassin.
I
Which
think
is
you're
obviously
right.
OG
Panopticon
proper Panopticon
spaces.
And Sela Rassilon. And I must say, hats off to Stephen Moffat for bringing back the Sela Rassilon. Because obviously Russell used his own logo.
Yeah.
You do see the Sela Rassilon very briefly in certain stories, but this time they're just like, fuck it, no, that is the logo of the Time Lords, why would you change it? Yeah.
I love it. I love seeing the High Council.
Yeah.
I like the Sisterhood of Khan being there.
Another thing that I said, props to Stephen for bringing them back in, because I mean, I love the Brain of Morbius. It's one of my favourite stories.
Yeah.
It's superb. So yeah, Sisterhood of Khan, that's great.
Absolutely. And the whole thing of him walking into town and kind of letting people know, let them know the Doctor's here.
Yeah.
It's like a Western.
It is like a Western.
And it's a really cool way of kind of reintroducing the Doctor as the outsider coming in.
Yeah.
It's like he's Jesus walking amongst people as well.
And
obviously you have the war hero stuff.
Yeah, and he's the man with no name, isn't he? He is Clint Eastwood. He's the man with no name. He puts on a coat that is cowboy-esque and, it's sort of Undertaker-esque. There's this sort of real thing of like, he's like a bringer of death.
It's like his anti-Doctor suit. It's like the evil Doctors, or not the evil Doctor, but
the Valiard.
It's his. This is when I have to do bad work. I wear this. Who do we think this older lady is?
That was one of my notes. So obviously we go back to the barn, the childhood barn. I imagine she's like the old dear. That old dear is probably the voice that we hear in Listen of the woman when, that guy's like, oh, well, he'd never be a Time Lord. So I don't necessarily think it's like his mother or anything.
No, I always thought it was like a nanny.
Yeah.
And she gathers kids who are promising young High Gallifreyans.
Yeah.
And they shape them in the wilderness and haze them.
One interesting thing that I noted about the Gallifreyans, not the Time Lords, but the Gallifreyans that living in the Outlands, so the Shaboogans, as they are now more commonly referred to, they all look suspiciously Spanish.
Is this because it was shot in Lanzarote by any chance?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Wherever it was, I was like, you're all very dark Mediterranean-looking people.
Indeed.
With the one pale as milk Scottish actor, and then a few other English people, and you're like, okay.
Exactly. Well,
They're out in the deserts of Gallifrey. They get a nice tan.
There's at least one sun. There's more than one sun up there, isn't there?
Is there? I don't know.
I don't know something, but they always talk about the burnt orange sky and all that kind of
silver
stuff.
leaves and the
exactly
skies are blue.
The seas of green.
Yeah.
So yeah, we obviously have a really nice bit here where we have a really tense standoff between the 12th Doctor and Rassilon, and you think it's going to spin off into something, and it doesn't.
Yeah. It spins off into him saying, "Fuck off."
Off you go.
And he's like, "Okay."
Yeah, and that's Rassilon gone.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
And you never see Rassilon again, and we're only a quarter of the way through the story at this point.
Is it better or worse that Timothy Dalton wasn't available to do this?
I think if Timothy Dalton hadn't been available, it would have felt like a waste of Timothy Dalton, but at least it's like wrapped up his incarnation.
Yeah.
At least there's like a beginning point and a bit of an end point, rather than this new incarnation debuting in the story that they then departed.
Yeah.
You know?
But then I guess the thing is, if you've got Timothy Dalton, you'd be like, oh shit, you can't just have him in it for like 5 minutes at the beginning and then tell him to sod off.
True.
You need him to be more of a presence in it.
True. I think it would be nice to have Timothy Dalton back in, because obviously, it's
he did
nice
such a
to
good
have
job, wasn't he?
And yeah, exactly.
He was a good Rassilon.
He was a good Rassilon.
Yeah.
All the spitting was a bit weird, but we'll move past that.
The spit of Rassilon.
So, okay, we have dispensed with the possibly interesting part of the story, and now we have to go back on to Clara.
Yeah.
So, the Doctor convinces the General, the male general, very good, Ken Bones, that he needs to speak to Clara to work out what the hybrid is, or to have a conflab.
Yeah.
The Doctor takes Clara out, and the General's like, right, do what you need to do, because you haven't got her long, you need to put her back and she's going to die, she's a fixed point in history.
Yeah.
And the Doctor decides, no, actually, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to take her away with me.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, right, how are you going to get yourself out of this? Is the General kind of going to go, I'll turn a blind eye to this?
Yeah.
Which they kind of do.
Yeah.
But I think they completely miss the point of regeneration, death,
Yeah.
But what the Doctor does instead is, it's established the gun it does not have a stun function, that phaser, and the Doctor shoots and kills a member of their own kind. The Doctor shoots and kills anyone.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that they've regenerated, as far as I'm concerned. Regeneration is death and rebirth, but it is fundamentally death.
Yeah.
It's like David Tennant's Doctor dying. That is. It's not just another person popping up.
No.
That's the death of that person's personality or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and he's been around. You've got to think how long this version of that incarnation has been around
for a while.
Because since the War Doctor, and now they've gone through all of to the end of the universe.
And
the
Doctor just blasts them.
Like he punches him in the face, doesn't he, to begin with?
But he says, I don't want to break your jaw.
Yeah.
So how did you get from that to I'm going to gun you down?
I don't want to break your jaw, but I'll shoot you.
Exactly, yeah.
Why don't you just Glock him around the head with the back of the thing?
I mean, that's slightly too violent, but then the Doctor does kill them.
I mean, I do like the line, death is just man flu for Time Lords. That did make me laugh. I think that is a fun line. But I do take umbrage with the fact that he did kill that bloke.
But,
I think it would have made more sense for the General to have been like, all right, fine, go, but we will catch you. And, that would have been it. Obviously, Stephen wanted to be like, I'm not only going to cast, I want to show the first on-screen regeneration.
And that happens,
And that happens. And obviously, 14th Doctor, Tania Miller turns up.
Exactly.
And she's very good.
She's very good. A lot of people have an issue with the men egos line.
Do they?
Yeah.
Why?
I was going to bring it up because I thought it was people seem to make a big point out of it. It's just
I think it's right, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there you go. So yeah, I'm not here as your prisoner, Davros, but as your executioner. That's a much more dramatically pull the trigger then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's Space Hitler.
Look at the situation we're in here.
Yeah.
But not over this.
No.
That's you know, that is what makes the Doctor ultimately pull the trigger. I think it's because I don't think I buy Clara as much as other people do.
No.
It's like, and I don't quite get what they're going for, because they're not pushing like they're in love with each other kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then there's also that bit where Clara says, you know, we're the same kind of person, let's talk to each other properly.
Yeah.
And then the camera pans out and we see that lovely shot of Gallifrey.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, if there was nobody else in that space right there, is the inference that they're going to have a little a little snuggle in the cloisters? Because, I mean, obviously they don't, and that's not the inference in that moment, but it seems a very weird way to leave that scene and then immediately come back to it. So, what do you think she says to him?
Oh, I think she definitely says, you know, I love you. And I think he does love her, you know, but I think he loves her in the same way that he loved Sarah Jane and Joe Grant, you know. I don't necessarily think it's like Rose Tyler loving.
No, it's not.
Do you know what I mean?
Because that would be inappropriate, I think, wouldn't it? I think that's the thing that people are a bit about with that.
And I think I've seen in interviews Jenna sort of say, "Oh, you know, we play it as if, you know, they love each other." Obviously, you know, there are many forms of love in All About the Shagging.
Of course. But I think that the way they actually do that moment, I think actually works really well.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to have a, you know, quite right kind of doomsday moment. No. You don't need to have any of that kind of stuff. And exactly like the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane, there is a love there.
Yeah.
With Joe and the Third Doctor,
and actually,
there is a love there, but it's different.
I think the departure of Clara with the Doctor here, I know we're skipping ahead a little bit, but it kind of echoes that Sarah Jane Smith departure, because she turns around to Tom and says, "Oh, don't you forget me," and he's like, "Oh, don't you forget me," and she says, it sort of gets said here, and she's like, "Oh, I don't think I could ever forget. No one could ever forget you."
Yeah.
Unless you're Donna.
Poor Donna.
Poor Donna. This is a weird one, though, because it's like, well, we're doing Journey's End, but we're flipping it on its head. But really, why? It just feels like a bit of a rehash of that whole, like, oh, we're going to wipe your memories, and
okay, I see.
You know, he's going to do that. To
I don't really get that from this, but I gather he's doing it because
it's to protect her, isn't it? It's so that the Time Lords don't come after her.
Because they're the hybrids?
Yeah.
Right, okay. I guess because it's so waffle thin what the hybrid actually is.
Yeah.
I don't actually know why he's doing that. I don't think it's, you know,
yeah, like if they're not together, then, you know, he doesn't have to wipe her memories, surely. He could just dump her back on Earth and be like, I'm sorry, you know, we just can't be around each other, because otherwise we're the hybrid.
But I guess the point is that because they are infatuated with each other, there's a love or you know, they want to be around each other. They know that if they do that, they'd probably still end up wanting to be with each other and travel with each other and get each other into trouble. But then Clara decides to go off and do that anyway. Sod it. I'll just do it on my own. Yeah. You know, maybe it's to protect him, so that he doesn't do daft stuff like take people out of their time streams. Yeah. Because it kind of ends up being that way, but, you know, him doing it to himself, he's made that choice. It's not like she's protecting him from himself, or the universe from him, you know? Yeah. It's just really muddled, and I think that's why it has such a dramatic weight, Heaven Sent. And it's compelling.
Yes.
But this isn't, because every time it's so it's frictionless. You know, when you try and grab onto an interesting plot point, you realise that it's half baked. It's not actually there. Yeah. And they're inferring that there's something there, but everything points towards it being that thing and this thing. You're like, oh, but then what am I getting invested in?
Yeah. It's trying to do too much at once. It's trying to tell one story very quickly and then get onto another story, but there's not really any, like you said, there's no real focus there. I've literally just put it here. The hybrid remains such a flimsy, bloody idea, even to the end. Like, what else is there to say? I mean, really, not an awful lot really happens. After the cloisters,
Yeah.
you're in the TARDIS. You're in the TARDIS.
You're in the classic TARDIS. And the classic TARDIS looks nice. It's nice to see a functioning, stock TARDIS. That's cool.
Shame they painted it white. They should have left it green.
Yeah, true.
I think it would have looked nicer. But, I mean, it still looks really good. And
it's a lovely set.
Hearing all the old noises and stuff, and obviously Capaldi's relishing it. And,
yeah.
I love all that stuff where the Doctor's like, we'll have lunch and then we'll have breakfast because we're time travelers and that's how we roll, and we'll have cocktails with Moses, and stuff like that. And it's like, you're getting back into Doctor mode now.
I think that's lovely because it does it infers he's getting back into himself. And that's really nice. What I then have a problem with at the end is Clara's gone, but she's still having this massive... her fingerprints are all over his life. Yeah. That she writes that note, what is it, that says, run you clever boy and be the Doctor. Yeah. And it's like, who the fuck are you to tell him to be the Doctor? Yeah. Like, it's obviously... I think it's because they, like you said, realised with Peter, when he does performance... When it's written like it's written in Heaven Sent, or, when they get the character right, that is what the Doctor is. It's like, okay, we've got him now. Yeah. But then for the show to kind of be like, the reason why he's starting to hit his stride is because Clara's taught him how to be the Doctor again. Yeah. But he doesn't have any influence. As far as he's aware, he doesn't know who this person is. Yeah. She has no influence over his life. So it's all, again, still very muddled and doesn't have any kind of thing to hang your hat on, as a concrete, this character actually... I don't get Clara as this guiding influence in his life.
No, I don't get that, and I don't get it, and I don't like it. And I also... There's this weird thing, again, it goes back to this meta thing of, like, the Doctor, seeing himself as an identity. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have to be the Doctor, or I can't always be the Doctor.
Like it's a badge you wear.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're not like fucking Batman and you're putting this costume on or something. So like, that always, like, part of me is like, oh, okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it. But then another part of me is like, well, that's just who he is, though, isn't it? That'd be like me saying, oh, Billy, you can't be Billy all the time. Mm-hmm. It's just weird.
And and then he sets the TARDIS in motion. Yeah. Off on his adventures. Oh God, we have to see this bloody mural disappear of Clara's face on the TARDIS. Okay, fine. Well, there's the TARDIS spinning, and there's the fucking thing. Diner. Go away! Do your thing somewhere else then. Your story's finished. Your story was finished 2 episodes ago. Yeah. And this why are you still here?
Horrible prop goes, and he grabs it.
He does grab, you nearly smash that into a million pieces then. And that prop appears.
Yeah, it's naff, isn't it?
It's not great looking, is it?
No, it's weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, I would love to have seen what Peter Capaldi would have designed if he was given a blank piece of paper and said, do a sonic screwdriver. Yeah. And he probably would have said, just give me that one over there. That'll do me.
Well, that was it, wasn't it? I think they wanted to give him a new one for Series 8. And he was like, can't I just use the other one?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
I mean, that might be his kind of not selling it to kids, because he wanted to make the Doctor's costume easy for kids to replicate. So, of course, he wore £600 boots. He had a coat that's like $2,000, and all of his, haute couture kind of like crazy holes in jumpers. Yeah, it's great. I mean, he looks great on screen. So can't really complain about it. The only other point I had to make really was, I think his speech is his goodbye is really nice. He gets a couple of fake out regeneration speeches, and it gets a bit tiresome after a while. And sometimes they blend into the other. Like I'm sure the pairs bit is in his actual final regeneration.
It does.
As well,
it turns up again, doesn't it? Yeah. He dies a lot.
He does.
He dies a lot because he's dying in Heaven Sent a lot, but he has the death like, I'm on the floor. Mm-hmm. Oh dear.
That whole sequence is really quite horrible, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, and all the blood, the burnt blood.
It goes on for a bit too long, I think. Just like.
But I think it really does. This big overriding question that I was going to ask you is this potentially one of the worst things that the Time Lords ever do? I don't think it really hits that. there's not really a moment in the story. I mean, I know they say, oh, well, it's the Time Lords that have done this, but there's never really that sort of like, boom.
There is
you've done all this to this man.
There is a bit where they say they're using a confession thing as a torture device.
Yeah.
There is a bit where he kind of acknowledges that they've repurposed this thing specifically to torture him.
Yeah.
So there is a slight acknowledgement, but nobody gets a comeuppance
No.
apart from Rassilon, but he's banished because the Doctor's turned up and get off my planet. And it's is this actually I get you're a war hero, but are you actually president of Gallifrey still, or what's going on there?
Yeah, so is he president by the end of the story? I guess he is he?
I guess so.
It's a shame. It doesn't quite hit that, wow, they have done something really, really shit.
A bit like No Time to Die, where they have a virus that they're going to release into the population so it can kill one person, but everybody unknowingly will just have to have nanobots in their body that never die.
Yeah.
Even though it's totally, it doesn't harm them.
Yeah.
It's still like an M isn't sort of pulled up as like, that's against like the Geneva Convention, like the ethics of war. You can't actually do that. So is that our?
Is that?
I think I've run out of spite.
The only other things that I want to bring up, because we're talking about the Capaldi era, and we never really talk about it an awful lot in detail. Couple of things. Best TARDIS in the new series, console room.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love the way that it feels alive, like when it's dark and then the lights and it all starts whirring to life and you get a few lights here and all the noises. It feels more alive than like the organic choral stuff.
I think that's because of the way that Rachel Talalay shot it. Though, because she's shooting like through the console. She's using the space to frame it.
Yeah.
And so it feels like it's part of the. Well, it's obviously part of the scene. But the TARDIS feels part of the scene as much as the Doctor is part of the scene. It's like because he retreats there. That's what I imagine. I'm in the TARDIS explaining what I've just done. This kind of thing I've done to you.
Yeah.
And that's really sweet. I really like that aspect of it. And again, it kind of makes me think maybe because the dynamic of the 12th Doctor and Clara I really like. Like that uncly sort of But then obviously they do love each other in a way. So that kind of slightly confuses it, but I do like their relationship together.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you were saying, the TARDIS looks brilliant.
Just absolutely fantastic.
The title sequence. What do we think of the title sequence?
That was my other thing. They really cocked it up, I think, with the title sequence. No disrespect, it feels like a fan-made title sequence. And obviously it was a fan-made title sequence.
The concept of it, but it was the BBC that animated it.
No, it was him. I think they got him in and gave him some budget to do it. And, I like the idea, okay, the clock thing, if that's new. But, I don't know.
I didn't realise that they actually did it because I was thinking and I was going, that police box looks really untextured. Like it looks far too bright and cartoony and colourful. Like I just kind of assumed that he was just like, I'll sign off on you guys using that idea.
Yeah, I just think it feels... I don't know, there's just something... I don't want to say cheap.
It's quite flat.
Yeah.
It's quite flat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you don't get a sense that, and you see it on like, when people build vortexes on YouTube and stuff, you're kind of travelling through.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, there's like a, I don't know what the right word is, on Instagram, you can use it as like a filter thing. What's it called? Hang on, let me find it.
Right.
It's called a edit. Vignette.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like every digital bit in that scene feels like a vignette. Around the screen.
Yeah, it just, I think when you compare it to the Russell T Davies title sequence, which, like you said, it felt so dynamic, and the vortex looks really good. Obviously, this is just like, okay, this is just stuff. You've got a clock motif, all right.
Yeah, do you like the kind of, it's not actually that, his time vortex doesn't look like that,
It does. It does. The time vortex is just a big clock.
What do you think of that as like, showing that as like a metaphor-y kind of,
No, I don't like it.
No.
It's too on the nose.
Too on the nose.
I think at the time I was like, huh. But now, looking back on it, it feels like such a bad idea. Not only the look of the title sequence, which I don't think works visually, and it certainly doesn't suit his Doctor.
No, you're right.
The music, again, what were they thinking? Obviously, Murray had a good hit ratio, generally speaking, but this...
I think when he does the 7B theme, though, I think you're like, what else have you got, though?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, he adds in the da 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 da, and that's a cool addition to the Series 5 theme.
Oh, I hate it.
I don't mind it.
Do you not?
But when you get past that, you haven't got anything else to offer up. But it's that instrumentation for the main ooey-oo.
Yeah.
It's like bagpipes.
It is, yeah.
It's like synthesized bagpipes. Is that a rib? Are you taking the piss?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it sounds horrible.
Yeah, it is hot. It is awful. I was watching it and I thought, why didn't you just do something? Why don't you think, look, he is the most classic Doctor-y Doctor that you have had. Just go back to the original stuff.
Get the original samples in.
Get the Delias out. Get those
It would
diddly-dums.
suit him
It
so
would suit
well.
him so much better.
And you
And
can
something
keep-
more ethereal for the title sequence.
You can keep the cogs. If you want to have something in there that's kind of like, remember, it's about time travel and he's an old person, so kind of like, it's like a grandfather clock or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that kind of works.
Yeah.
And you don't really have cogs like a clock and the time incorporated in any other part of the Doctor's, apart from that horrible office that he has in Invasion of Time, where it's all,
Yeah!
But,
I think that's just his decor. Maybe he just likes cogs.
Dread, you wouldn't see that in IKEA.
No.
It's a horrible sounding theme tune.
Yeah, it's a shame. It lets it down. It lets down the atmosphere of
It does.
of those stories.
Breaks
I think.
it.
I think when you look at something like when you look at Time of the Doctor, and then you go to Deep Breath, which was directed by Ben Whishaw.
No, Ben.
Henshaw. No, I was just saying names.
Ben W. Something. I'll find it. Go on.
And it looks very different.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just shot in such a
Ben
way.
Wheatley.
Ben Wheatley. There we go. Ben
Wheatley.
Ben Wheatley. It looks so different, and it looks kind of moody, and you think, oh, and then it goes to, and you're like, oh no, you don't
horrible.
want that. Yeah, you're like, oh, if it had just been,
And also in these two episodes, the way it's just his name that comes up on the credits.
Yeah.
And you're like, it lingers for a long time. You're like, because it's so flat.
Yeah.
There's nothing else for the sequence to do. So
Yeah.
if you get rid of the credit, you're just seeing that constant looping graphic.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels like it feels like a Doctor Who Confidential title sequence, or something that the BBC have quietly cooked up for this little documentary about Doctor Who. We'll just get some boys in the graphics department
Because
to chuck some shit
it's like
together.
those graphics aren't like, that then no part of that title sequence in the three kind of distinct sections of it knit together. How do you get from the cogs to the time to then the time to the vortex?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't
I reckon Jodie Whittaker's title sequence would have fit his Doctor much better, because it's sort of weird and nebulous, and maybe have his eyes.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
I don't like the stock image that they've used for his eyes, because
No.
it feels like, oh, this is just a weird publicity image. Why don't they just do a proper headshot of him?
This is just for this.
Just for the title sequence. That would have been.
And there are better images of his face.
Yeah, there are much better ones. And I think that would have been so cool if you'd have had something like. And then those, all the vortex, and
his eyes
then there's
come
the
out of it.
eyes. God, how scary would that have been?
Exactly.
You'd have been like, fucking hell.
How do you make this 12th Doctor less appealing to children already? God.
But that would have been good. And I sort of think almost really with Jodie, because she was like bright, colourful Doctor, I think she needed a bit of a Colin Baker, like,
maybe.
bright and sparkly.
Well, you kind of get that from the Flux. Actually, from all the promotional images.
Yeah.
Apart from the New Dawn thing.
Yeah.
They're all
really bright
colours
and
and.
And I remember watching it and thinking, wow, this is really brown and dull.
Murky.
Murky, yeah, everything looks murky.
It's like looking into the Avon. All those things swirling around.
Yeah, you're right. It is like dirty sediment filter over the whole, every episode.
It's really odd.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't have any glitz or glamour.
I take it over the Capaldi sequence. It's just...
Oh yeah. I mean, I love Jodie Whittaker's title sequence. I just meant like the look of the series at the moment. You know, it's got that weird filter. But I think actually in later series, like series 12 and then Flux, they've brightened up the title sequence, and it looks great.
Yeah.
It's all the better for it. But yeah, I think they needed something classic. They needed something,
because it suits him.
Yeah.
It suits him. So and the ethereal nature of that early title sequence is it's ghostly and weird and shit, so it would fit.
And I think that's what you needed for him, because obviously they were going down an avenue of like, we don't really know what he's all about, this Doctor. And I think that would have really just made people go, ooh, this is a bit different. Because it felt like they were trying to veer it more towards adults, really, in some
Series
aspects.
8 felt like that, I think.
And I think that's when they needed to be like, well, let's maybe just try and do a bit more of a sophisticated title sequence and theme.
Yeah. But it's not.
It's not. It feels like CBBC shit,
It does.
It's not a patch on Russell's stuff. And I mean, I don't like the Series 5 Vortex because that is just clouds. I like 7B.
Yeah.
I know people don't. I know it is.
From a technical standpoint, 7B isn't very well made.
No.
But,
Yeah.
Well, have we come to some kind of peace with this series finale?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it kind of muddied the whole Capaldi thing for me, this finale.
Right.
But I can take away from it going, he is exceptionally good, and he's exceptionally good through the whole thing. And there are bits in Bent of his performance that are great.
Yeah.
And there's some obviously brilliant cinematography. It's really nicely shot.
Yeah.
The score, for the most part, is brilliant.
Yeah.
Jenna Coleman's very good.
Yeah.
All the actors are very, very good. All the acting's very good. But I just think it's Clara coming back and Heaven Sent having no consequence dramatically anymore because she comes back.
Yeah.
I think it really ruins that whole year.
I think for me, at the time, I would have agreed with you wholeheartedly. I think now I'm at the point where it's like, well, you're never going to change it.
No, that's true. That's true.
It is what it is. It's out the gate. It's been televised. It's, it's history. So I think watching it, I was just trying to appreciate what it does well. And I think I said to Jonathan, I was like, you know what? It's that Tom Baker thing of, the story might be a bit clunky. It might be a season 15 shit story.
Yeah.
But Tom's really good, and it's like with Underworld, really. We didn't enjoy Underworld.
True.
Like Underworld as a story is not very good, and technically it's a bit crap. I mean, although Tom is very much like, fuck me, I can't be asked on these bloody blue screens.
He very much is like that.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not like Underworld is trying to do this.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like there are many other episodes of Doctor Who that get the Doctor so wrong enough to have him kill another person on screen. And so for that reason, I'm like, I almost can't let go of it in a weird way. Because it's like, I don't get what possessed you to do that to this character, And the Doctor is like, can be treated mightier than thou, or can be brought right down to a level where, you're no better than one of these humans. And the Doctor, morally, it sometimes isn't. The Doctor can be an arsehole sometimes. But I think just, with Clara being this person, it's set up to be just like the Doctor, can hold themselves like the Doctor, get out of situations like the Doctor. It's like, you need to create a bit of a distance between the two of them. Otherwise, what's the point in just focusing the show on the Doctor? Yeah. Let's have a Clara spin-off that's, as big. I just think conflict, it's just it muddying the waters between the importance of the Doctor. Yeah. And then doing that and then having him kill a member of his own species and then losing the drama with Clara. I can't let go of it. It's weird.
Yeah. It's okay. That's all I can really say about it. Is honestly, I would watch this like a million times over, compared to the Husbands of River Song that follows it.
Yeah.
Because that is just dog shit.
It's not anything of consequence, is it?
Yeah.
Really? You know,
there are no stakes. You know, I know people like River Song,
it's
and
Christmas special. I think it's difficult to compare it, isn't it?
You know, but there's
Take another bad series finale, like Ran Score Av Kolos.
I'd sooner have this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But versus like putting that up against the next Christmas special, it's like
I see what you mean.
The next New Year's special.
Yeah,
it's a different type of thing.
Yeah.
I just think
although I would say like the New Year's specials have more of a normal episode vibe.
Yeah.
Compared to like the Christmas, especially in the Moffat's Christmas specials, were like,
true.
It's Christmas!
Yeah. It is an overdose of crimbo.
It really is. Yeah, I'm glad we're past all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to talk about the Husbands of River Song.
No.
Because we've done that story. We've
Good.
reviewed it. I mean, we've kind of reviewed this story before on, the Review of Death before.
But we haven't gone into it.
No.
We haven't deep dived
and we haven't done any Capaldi stuff.
Yeah.
Since we started
that was the thing. I just loved rewatching it because of Peter Capaldi.
Same.
I think that was just, I was just like, oh God, you're so good.
He was the best thing. He was the best part of it.
Yeah, he was the best. Yeah, that's it. He's the best part of it. And I just thought, I'd love to see you come back. And I wished we'd have got one more series.
It would have been so cool.
It would have been good. Maybe not under Chris Chibnall, because I just don't think his dialogue would just not work.
No.
Because Stephen, say what you will about him and say, whatever, but his dialogue is good and it is sparky and it is zippy. And I did think watching this, I was like, God, this feels light years a difference from kind of sort of cumbersome dialogue, I think, of the Chibnall Doctor Who.
The as of yet unborn.
What the fuck is
like
that?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of almost want to go back and watch Broadchurch and just be like, was it really this? Was that clunky like this,
or is it that because it's a different kind of show?
Yeah, is it because
he needs to add more stuff in?
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe he just feels like, oh well, I remember back in the old days when Doctor Who used to explain stuff, so I'll just do that.
Yeah, I just feel like that kind of an attitude, like but that Stephen Moffat does that.
Yeah,
he does that kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that annoys me as well.
Yeah, there's a flippancy
Doctor,
to it.
How did you do it? That doesn't stop asking questions.
Yeah.
But these are like fundamental,
and
I'd like to know as an audience member.
And then to make a joke of it, like in the Dalek story, and be like, where did this tea come from? I'm the Doctor, deal with it. No, don't deal with it.
Yeah.
Where did you get that tea? Asshole.
Well, I feel we may have come full circle.
Yeah.
We've ended it by calling Stephen Moffat an arsehole. Yeah, Full Circle. Maybe we should review Full Circle.
I love Full Circle.
Maybe we should do a season 18 one. Best season 18 versus worst season 18.
I love season 18. I know some people really are like, ugh. I love season 18.
Yeah. I'd like to watch State of Decay because it's an episode I've never really been able to crack into.
Really, I've
watched it, but loads of times, but I've not really kind of delved into it and got invested in it as a story.
Yeah. Well, what should we do? Should we think about that? Maybe
we'll come back to you and we'll tell you what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
We'll
muse upon this.
Yeah.
But it might be something burgundy.
Something burgundy would be cool at some point in the near future.
Something burgundy.
We're well set up for
trying to hang myself for like.
After watching Hellbent, I'm not surprised. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope I've been able to exercise your demons as well as my own. I'll leave Matt here in the studio by himself. I'll start switching some bits and bobs off.
Yeah.
But yeah, feel free to sign off and I'll leave you there and I'll come and let you back in the morning.
Yeah, see you everybody. Thanks for watching or listening. Bye-bye.
I can't turn the lights off. That'll work.